Canada is reaching a breaking point. As Mark Carney steps into the political spotlight, many Canadians are asking, is this Trudeau 2.0? Immigration fatigue is exploding, and with Indians and Chinese dominating jobs, housing and culture, Canadians feel pushed out of their own country. Tonight we uncover the truth the mainstream won't tell you. Section 1. Carney's rise. Is he the next Trudeau? Mark Carney's journey into the political conversation of Canada is unusual. Unlike Justin Trudeau, who came from a famous political dynasty, Carney carved his reputation in the world of finance and central banking. His rise to prominence was built on competence, not charisma, but the comparison with Trudeau has become unavoidable as his name is floated as a possible successor. Born in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, Carney's Canadian roots are genuine, though his upbringing quickly took him into elite educational circles. He studied economics at Harvard and later earned a doctorate at Oxford, a path that placed him firmly among the global intellectual elite. Carney began his career at Goldman Sachs, one of the world's most powerful investment banks. His experience in international finance gave him credibility among policymakers and corporate leaders, but it also connected him to the very networks of global finance that many ordinary Canadians distrust. In 2003, Carney entered public service at the Bank of Canada, where his sharp analytical skills stood out. He was appointed governor in 2008, just as the global financial crisis was unfolding. His calm management during the crisis won him widespread praise at home and abroad. Unlike other economies, Canada's banking system remained stable during those turbulent years, and Carney's leadership was credited with helping shield Canadians from the worst effects. This established him not just as a technocrat, but as a trusted national figure. In 2013, Carney's career reached new heights when he was appointed Governor of the Bank of England, making him the first non-Briton to hold the role. The appointment confirmed his status as an international figure capable of managing complex economies on the world stage. His tenure in the UK gave him visibility far beyond Canada. Carney became a regular face at global summits, particularly the World Economic Forum in Davos, where his speeches often centered on climate change, sustainable finance, and the need for capitalism to adapt to new realities. This emphasis on global issues, while admired internationally, deepened concerns at home. Many Canadians worried that Carney, like Trudeau, might prioritize international prestige and climate rhetoric over domestic affordability and everyday struggles. Within the Liberal Party, Carney has long been seen as a potential Prime Minister. Party insiders describe him as a natural fit, polished, articulate, and committed to progressive causes. His name frequently surfaces whenever leadership renewal is discussed. The comparison with Trudeau is sharp. Trudeau rose to power on optimism and charisma, promising sunny ways. Carney, by contrast, projects seriousness and expertise. Yet both men share an appeal to urban elites, academics, and international audiences more than to rural or working-class Canadians. Trudeau's critics often accused him of focusing on image over results. Carney's challenge would be different, proving that his technocratic skills can translate into policies that improve the daily lives of Canadians struggling with inflation, housing, and healthcare. Supporters argue that Carney brings something Trudeau lacks: credibility in economics. His knowledge of inflation, monetary policy, and global finance could be critical at a time when affordability is the top concern for voters. But opponents caution that Carney's expertise may come across as cold and detached. Economic models and market strategies do not always translate into empathy, and Canadian voters may not connect with him on a personal level. Carney's strongest support lies in major cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Ottawa, where his internationalism is celebrated. Professionals in finance, academia, and policy circles see him as someone who can protect Canada's global reputation. Section 2. Immigration fatigue. Canada. At a breaking point, Canada's population has surged at a rate unmatched in its history. In just 2023 and 2024, nearly 1.3 million newcomers entered the country, making Canada the highest per capita immigration destination in the G7. While government leaders point to economic growth and cultural vibrancy, everyday Canadians increasingly describe the pace as unsustainable. The housing market is the most visible area where the strain is felt. Home prices, already among the highest in the world, soared further as demand outpaced construction. Young Canadians, often in stable jobs, find themselves permanently excluded from ownership, a milestone once seen as part of middle-class life. Renters face equally steep challenges. Cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary have seen double-digit rent increases in 2024 alone, forcing families into smaller apartments, extended commutes, or even moving away from urban job centres. Immigration fatigue, therefore, is less about who is arriving and more about how quickly communities are changing. The pace of transformation outstrips planning, leaving Canadians feeling as if their cities are buckling under pressure. Healthcare has become a critical fault line. Hospitals across the country, already burdened by an aging population and lingering pandemic backlogs, now contend with increased patient volumes. Wait times for emergency rooms and specialist appointments have grown, fueling public frustration. Education systems tell a similar story. Overcrowded classrooms, stretched resources, and the challenge of accommodating students from diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds leave many parents questioning whether their children are getting the attention they need. Public transportation networks in urban hubs are also at capacity. Subway trains, buses, and commuter rails carry record numbers of passengers, often with delays or service gaps. Infrastructure spending has not kept pace with the influx. Surveys reveal the extent of public unease. A 2024 poll showed nearly 70% of Canadians believe immigration levels are too high. While many still value diversity, they doubt whether current policies serve the interests of citizens already struggling. Immigration fatigue manifests in protests, social media debates, and growing political polarization. Online forums frequently feature Canadians sharing stories of being priced out of homes or waiting hours in emergency rooms, experiences often linked directly to rising immigration levels. Generational divides complicate the issue. Older Canadians worry about pensions, healthcare, and the sustainability of services. Younger Canadians, meanwhile, see their dreams of home ownership and financial independence slipping away. Regional differences also emerge. In Atlantic Canada, where depopulation was once the norm, newcomers are welcomed to sustain local economies. In contrast, major cities see the growth as overwhelming, driving costs higher and stretching systems thinner. Critics argue that the issue lies in poor planning rather than immigration itself. The federal government, they say, has failed to align immigration targets with housing construction, healthcare investments, and infrastructure expansion. Supporters of immigration highlight that newcomers fill labor shortages in construction, healthcare, and agriculture. Yet this reassurance means little to citizens priced out of homes or waiting endlessly for medical attention. The political stakes are immense. Opposition parties now frame immigration levels as a failure of Liberal leadership, arguing that Trudeau, and potentially Carney, are ignoring the mounting discontent. Immigration has also reshaped Canada's conversation on multiculturalism. While once a point of national pride, some Canadians now question whether the country's ability to integrate newcomers has reached a breaking point. Pro-immigration advocates stress that Canada's identity as a diverse society is not the problem. The issue, they argue, is government mismanagement. With better planning, the benefits of immigration could be shared more equitably. Still, the sense of fatigue is more than numerical, it is emotional. Canadians describe feeling as though their communities are transforming too quickly for them to recognize. This loss of stability fuels resentment. Reducing immigration may alleviate strain, but it risks slowing growth and angering businesses reliant on international labor. Maintaining high levels risks deeper public backlash. As Carney positions himself for potential leadership, he inherits this debate. Canadians will want clarity on whether he plans to maintain Trudeau's aggressive immigration policies or chart a new course. Immigration fatigue, once dismissed as fringe, has become a central theme in Canadian politics. It may well define the country's next election. Section 3. Indians and Chinese, dominating the job market. Among Canada's newcomers, Indians and Chinese communities have become the most influential economically. In 2023, Indian nationals accounted for nearly 40% of new permanent residents, an extraordinary share for a single country. The technology sector illustrates their presence most clearly. In cities like Toronto, Waterloo and Vancouver, Indian professionals dominate IT and engineering roles. Hiring networks often extend through community and family connections. Critics argue these networks can disadvantage Canadian-born applicants, creating the perception of insider hiring where opportunities are concentrated within certain groups. Chinese immigrants, though smaller in absolute numbers, wield significant influence through real estate. In Vancouver, Richmond and parts of Toronto, Chinese investors are key drivers of property markets, pushing values upward. This dual dominance, Indians in jobs, Chinese in housing, shapes public perception. Many Canadians feel squeezed out of both their workplaces and their neighborhoods. Stories of Canadians losing out on job opportunities circulate widely online. On LinkedIn and in workplace forums, frustration grows over the sense that cultural connections matter more than qualifications. Logistics and warehousing industries also reflect this shift. Companies in Ontario and Alberta rely heavily on immigrant labor, fundamentally changing the workforce makeup. Housing, however, is the flashpoint. Young Canadians competing with foreign investors for homes in Vancouver or Toronto feel the system is stacked against them. Attempts to curb foreign investment through taxes and regulations have done little to slow demand, as investors find ways to adapt and continue buying. Indian and Chinese influence is not inherently negative. Both groups contribute skills, capital, and economic energy. Yet the pace of their dominance has produced friction. Critics frame this as replacement economics, where Canadian-born workers feel pushed aside not by automation, but by immigration-fueled competition. Small businesses also struggle. Competing with firms that access cheaper labor through international hiring networks leaves many local businesses at a disadvantage. In healthcare, Canadian-trained graduates report difficulties securing placements, while international candidates seem to find pathways more easily. This fuels resentment among young professionals. Education has also adapted to serve newcomers. Private colleges catering almost exclusively to Indian students have proliferated, creating separate pipelines into the workforce. Canadians watching this dynamic unfold increasingly believe their opportunities are being sidelined. Rising housing prices and stagnant wages intensify that perception. Chinese ownership of real estate further symbolizes government failure. Entire neighborhoods in Vancouver stand half-empty, yet remain unaffordable to locals. Defenders of immigration argue that innovation and economic growth require diversity. But the argument falls flat among those who feel excluded from jobs and homes. The combined weight of Indian and Chinese influence makes the issue highly visible. Canadians see these groups reshaping industries and communities in real time. Politically, this dynamic is combustible. It feeds directly into voter anger about fairness, affordability, and national identity. Carney will face pressure to explain whether his policies would continue this trajectory or protect opportunities for Canadians first. Section 4. Cultural shifts. Whose Canada is it? The cultural impact of immigration has become as significant as the economic one. Entire cities now reflect identities once considered minorities. In Brampton, Ontario, South Asians make up more than 60% of the population. Streets are lined with Indian restaurants, grocery stores, and clothing shops, reshaping the city's character. Richmond, British Columbia, is now majority Chinese, with Mandarin and Cantonese often more common than English. Cultural festivals dominate the local calendar. These transformations are visible in schools. Teachers juggle classrooms where English and French are often second languages. Parents worry about resources being stretched too thin. Religious life has also shifted. Mosques, gurdwaras, and temples have expanded rapidly, while Christian congregations decline. Cultural festivals illustrate the new landscape. Diwali and Lunar New Year celebrations attract tens of thousands, often outshining Canada Day in size and enthusiasm. Online forums show Canadians voicing nostalgia for communities that no longer resemble those they grew up in. For some, the change feels enriching, for others, disorienting. Advocates say these changes reflect Canada's multicultural strength. Critics argue they signal cultural erasure. Traditional Canadian businesses, unable to compete or connect with new demographics, close their doors. The media landscape reflects immigrant influence as well. Canadian-produced content increasingly competes with programming tailored to immigrant audiences. Younger Canadians growing up in diverse environments often see this as normal. Older Canadians describe it as a rupture with national traditions. Language shifts reinforce this sense of change. Entire neighborhoods operate in Punjabi, Mandarin, or Hindi, making English and French less dominant in daily life. These changes raise difficult questions about belonging. What does it mean to be Canadian if shared identity feels diluted? Economically, diversity drives demand for businesses that cater to immigrant communities. Culturally, however, many feel Canada's identity slipping. The sense of displacement is not limited to cities. Smaller towns absorbing newcomers also feel their pace of life changing dramatically. Political debates about multiculturalism have become more polarized. Advocates call it progress, skeptics call it loss. Carney, like Trudeau, aligns with multicultural ideals. His policies would likely continue this trajectory, appealing to progressives but alienating those already skeptical. Cultural fatigue, layered onto economic stress, deepens the feeling among many Canadians that their country is no longer recognizable. Whether this transformation strengthens or weakens Canada is now central to the national debate. For Carney, the question is unavoidable. Can he present multiculturalism as enrichment without alienating those who feel erased by it? Section 5. The future. Can Carney change course or double down? As Mark Carney emerges in the national conversation, Canadians are asking whether he represents a genuine alternative or simply continuity with a new face. His reputation as a central banker suggests competence, but it also raises concerns that he will prioritize global interests over domestic struggles. Carney's speeches emphasize climate leadership, financial reform and inclusivity, themes that echoed Trudeau's talking points over the last decade. Critics argue that this alignment means Canadians can expect more of the same policies that created today's affordability crisis. Immigration is central to this debate. Carney has not yet outlined a clear position, but many assume he would maintain high intake levels to satisfy economic growth models. If so, he risks deepening the public fatigue that is already driving skepticism toward the Liberals. Supporters argue that Carney's deep understanding of inflation and markets equips him to handle Canada's economic challenges better than Trudeau ever could. Yet, economic expertise does not automatically translate into political success. Canadians want leaders who can connect emotionally, not just intellectually. The Liberal Party may market Carney as a stabilizing figure after Trudeau, hoping to retain urban elites and centrist voters. The Conservatives will seize on his similarities to Trudeau, framing him as Trudeau 2.0 in attack ads and commentary. The stakes are high. If Carney succeeds, he could restore confidence in the Liberals. If he fails, he risks cementing the view that the party is hopelessly detached from ordinary Canadians. Policy alternatives exist. Lower immigration quotas, stricter hiring laws, and stronger protections for Canadian workers could ease pressures, but it remains unclear whether Carney supports them. His past statements about inclusive growth and Canada's global role suggest he may prefer continuity over change. Resource-rich provinces will watch closely. If Carney emphasizes climate goals at the expense of jobs, he will face resistance similar to what Trudeau experienced. Urban centres may embrace him as a competent technocrat, but rural regions could reject him outright as another elitist leader. The divide between globalist policies and local needs will define the trajectory of his leadership. Carney must also contend with growing populist sentiment. If he fails to address affordability directly, discontent could fuel further polarization. International allies may cheer his leadership, but domestic patience is wearing thin. Canadians want results, not prestige. Ultimately, Carney's potential leadership represents a crossroads, to break from the Trudeau era or to entrench it further. The answer will depend on whether Canadians see in him a chance for renewal or simply another polished face for the same set of policies. Canadians are waking up, but is it too late? Do you believe Carney is just Trudeau 2.0? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. The future of Canada depends on voices like yours being heard.